Hold
Is
on,
anyone speaking?
everyone, please.
Okay.
No, hold on just a minute. We were having some more technical difficulties.
Okay.
Hang on just a sec. Okay, go ahead, John. It cut out when you started speaking, John.
I was just going to ask Michelle if she got through the roll call.
I did, and they were all ayes.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Mm-hmm.
Is everyone back up and running? Looks like it. So we'll go ahead and move on to item 7E, which is our own emergency ordinance 20-8 of the City Council of the City of Whitefish, Montana, amending emergency ordinance 20-05 and establishing a phased plan for reopening motels, hotels, short-term rentals, and all other lodging facilities, and waiving the second reading. Again, this will be the only reading of this emergency ordinance. Angie.
John, that'll be me this evening. I'll take over for Angie here. That's okay, no problem. I'm just sharing with you here a portion of this is the exhibit that really details the changes that we're proposing. So good evening, Mayor and Council. In response to the alarming trend of individuals seeking refuge in small communities from COVID-19 hotspots, the City Council adopted Ordinance 20-05 on April 5th, 2020 that prohibited motels, hotels, and other lodging facilities from accepting reservations and walk-ins for non-essential purposes through April 30th. That ordinance was extended on April 23rd, so that extended through May 10th by an order completed by myself as authorized in the original ordinance. On April 22nd, Governor Bullock had issued a phased approach to reopening Montana. And in doing so, he established conditions for phase 1 and extended the directive that required certain travelers that arrive in Montana from another state or country to self-quarantine for 14 days. And that date of that directive was extended through the end of the emergency. So after a detailed review of Governor Bullock's phased approach for reopening Montana, consideration of the safety of our citizens and the economic impact to our lodging facilities, I've prepared a phased approach for the council's consideration that is done in coordination with the governor's phases. So in the attached, and what I'll do is go through this exhibit, there are some recommended changes from what was included in the packet. After really reading through the ordinance and talking with a couple lodging facilities in our area, it was brought to my attention that the language could be somewhat confusing. So I would propose the highlighted changes. First, all hotels, motels, short-term rentals, and other lodging facilities are prohibited from providing accommodations for reservations and walk-ins for non-essential purposes through phase 1. So there is other language in there, but summarizing a bit. In section 3, we've replaced that, and now it would state that all hotels, motels, short-term rentals, and other lodging facilities are prohibited for providing accommodations for reservations and walk-ins from out-of-state or out-of-country residents until the governor lifts his quarantine requirements of 14 days. And then section 4 would be where we have accommodations will be allowed for Montana residents during phase 2 and phase 3. So in summary, phase 1 is that there would be only accommodations for essential purposes, which we define within this ordinance. And then phase 2 would be only Montana residents. Phase 3 would also be only Montana residents unless the governor lifts the 14-day quarantine. If he lifts the 14-day quarantine along with phase 3, then at that point, non-essential travel from out of country and out of state individuals would be eligible for accommodations in Whitefish. There was one minor change to the definition of essential purposes from what I had submitted with the packet. And because the directive for quarantine now, it has always and really has focused on work travel, because we now have non-essential businesses that have come back online, we would change from essential workers as defined by federal and state guidance to work-related travel. And then we would also add a section 6 to clarify that due to the unknown duration for each phase, reservations of all types may be booked by lodging facilities, but cancellations must be processed both in a timely manner and prior to arrival if the restrictions provided within this ordinance are still in effect. So one of the questions that was raised by a local lodging facility was, can I take and accept reservations for August, July? The intent behind this ordinance is to help us move through these various phases. We don't know when those are, and I would like those lodging facilities to be able to accept the reservations out 3 months, knowing though that there would be a potential need for cancellation if our restrictions are still in place. Phase 1, keeping it to our current regulations with it, which is only essential purposes, was really supported by the governor's directive with phase 1 that says to minimize non-essential travel for both individuals and businesses. As we move through to phase 2, he does lift certain travel. It is no longer minimized for individuals. However, those who are of the vulnerable population should continue to follow the stay-at-home guidance. And then as we move into phase 3, he really is silent on his current phase reopening plan. That being said, as we heard from Hillary earlier this evening, we really don't know the details of each phase other than his general plan. So with that, there is no financial requirement to this ordinance, and I would be happy to answer any questions. The staff respectfully recommends that the City Council approve what would be Emergency Ordinance 20-08, amending Emergency Ordinance number 20-05, and establishing a phased plan for reopening motels, hotels, short-term rentals, and all other lodging facilities. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dana. I'm going to start with questions of the council, and I'll begin with Andy.
No questions. Thanks, Dana.
Frank.
No questions at this time. Thanks.
Rebecca.
Questions? Thank you.
Steve.
Hi, Dana. I think it might be a quick question. I think I already know the answer, but given the fact that we are opening restaurants and other things right now, is there any monitoring of what's going on, what different places are doing, so that we could compile a list of best practices that we see that we can share with other restaurants?
From the restaurant side, the Flathead City County Health Department gave really great guidance to specific type of industries, including restaurants. We haven't been monitoring specifically what businesses are doing, whether it's lodging, restaurants, or retail, but we are definitely trying to educate along with the county.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Melissa.
No comments or questions, thanks.
Thank you. Finally, Ryan.
No comments for me.
Thanks, Ryan. We did advertise for a public hearing on item 7E of the agenda, which will be our own Emergency Ordinance 20-8. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Hunt, our moderator, to gauge if there's any public comment. Please, while you check, I just will ask Michelle, any written comments submitted that we need to be aware of?
We do have 3 comments, and due to the newly passed ordinance, Emergency Ordinance 2007, I will not read those into the record. 2 were in support: Paul McCann, 340 Summers Avenue, and Sue Basta, 108 Bay Point Drive. The 3rd comment, Matt Cease, 59 Bodish Meadow Trail. He just, he didn't really have yes or no, but he does suggest that the city, county, and state conduct inspections of individuals to adhere to the most stringent protocols. And that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Chris, anyone chime in on your end?
I am not seeing any chat, Q&A, or any raised hands.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on item 7E of the agenda and turn it back to the council for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve emergency ordinance number 20-08.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Hennon. Frank, would you like to speak to your motion?
I think Dana's done a good job of reorganizing this and dealing with the changing requirements from the state and from the county health department. I know that this will be revisited again as we progress through the various phases of the reopening as we get more details on what that means. And so I'm comfortable with where we are right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. Further comments from the council? Not seeing any. Michelle, roll call, please.
Councillor Cornell,
Aye.
Councillor Sweeney,
Aye.
Councillor Hartman,
Aye.
Councillor Hennon,
Aye.
Councillor Fury,
Aye.
Councillor Norton.
Rebecca, you're on mute.
Oops. Can you
Thank you.
not hear me? Whoops.
It's
You're probably
it
hearing my
sounds like-
dog.
Sounds like your dog voted for you.
Yeah.
And that's unanimous, Michelle?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dana. Good work on this. I'm going to move on to item 8A, which is Resolution 20-14, a resolution relating to financing of certain proposed projects, establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code, and this appears on page 226 of the packet. Just for those that are watching tonight, this is going to be our first opportunity to engage with our new finance director live. I would like to welcome Ben Dahlman to our executive team here at the city. He was hands down our top choice when we interviewed for this position, and we're just very pleased that he was willing to accept and make the journey from Colorado up here to Montana to join us. So thanks very much, Ben, and certainly welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. Mr. Mayor and City Council members, you have before you a resolution related to the financing of certain proposed projects, establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. In short, this is called a reimbursement resolution. City Council has seen these resolutions in the past for other projects. This is for the city's water treatment plant expansion project. The State Department of Environmental Quality has determined that future connections to the city water system necessitate treatment capacity expansion. The city has chosen a water treatment plant expansion that will increase the capacity from 5 to 7 million gallons per day with the ability, or 5 million gallons per day with the ability to increase to 7 million gallons per day. A state revolving fund water revenue bond application has been prepared, and if approved, will be a significant financing mechanism for the project. In order for the city to be reimbursed for eligible expenditures from future bond proceeds, we recommend approval of this resolution. It has been prepared by bond counsel. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks very much, Ben. We'll go ahead and start with Andy. Any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Ben.
Frank?
No questions. Thanks, Ben.
Rebecca?
Questions? Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Melissa?
No questions.
Thanks, Melissa. Ryan?
No question.
All right, with that said, we will need a motion to this effect, adopting resolution 20-14.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 20-14.
There a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Melissa. Steve, would you like to comment on your motion?
Nope, nothing further to add.
Great, thanks. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councillor Cornell,
Aye.
Councillor Sweeney,
Aye.
Councillor Hartman,
Aye.
Councillor Hennon,
Aye.
Councillor Fury,
Aye.
Councillor Norton.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle, and that's unanimous. Council, Ben, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to item 9A. You have Dana's written report enclosed with the packet. Any questions for Dana on the report? I'll just leave that as an open question. Not seeing any hands. Dana, anything else to report on?
Yes, 1 second. Let me share my screen. I just forgot about being muted there for a second.
I just want to say, if I could just say something really quick, we need to get the wave open as soon as possible because my daughter is going crazy without being able to swim. So we're talking about buying a above ground pool that is 3.5 feet deep and 5 feet across so that she has a place to practice.
Yes.
Go ahead and buy a wetsuit and head down to the lake.
There you go.
Good idea.
Yeah. Unfortunately, those are one of the things that are last on the list for the governor when it comes to the pools. So, just wanted to provide you guys a quick update. A lot of information in my manager's report, but City Hall did open today to the public. During the afternoon, we had about 10 individuals come in. During the morning, I'm sure there were some more. Individuals, as they enter the City Hall vestibule, they'll see this self-check health assessment for them to stop by. In those envelopes down toward the bottom of the picture is envelopes with individual masks. So those individuals who might not have brought a mask have been asked to put that on. There is a temperature gauge there for people to take their own temperature with disinfecting wipes and a garbage next to it. When you come in, you'll see these little stickers on the floor, which are helping us to make sure people continue to social distance within City Hall as they're waiting to be serviced at the counters. And then here, it's kind of hard because there is the gate behind there, but this is our plexiglass that has been so tastefully done by Dave Butts, our facilities maintenance manager, that we have these up at each counter so that we have a barrier between our staff and those visiting. So today went really well. I think we're seeing more planning and building customers come in. And so we're happy with the process of how it's gone so far. I would also like to provide you an update in my manager's report. There is the parks reopening phased plan as well that I'd like to bring your attention to. We are getting very close to being fully prepared for some of our facilities with the necessary sanitation practices, whether it's hand sanitizer, wash stations. Currently, all of our facilities do remain closed except for our bike pedestrian paths, the Whitefish Trail, and our open space parks. We are looking at if all processes and safety measures are in place, that we could see opening of certain parks, potentially tennis, pickleball, opening later this week. And then our City Beach AIS station will likely open on Friday. Currently, everybody is moving through State Park, where AIS inspection was ramped up on Friday when State Park opened. So as we move forward, again, it's dependent on when we can procure all of the necessary sanitation equipment, whether it's hand sanitizer or the actual stations themselves. But know that we're taking this very seriously. We know that there is a lot of a lot of the phone calls we've received over the past week and a half, as soon as the governor's order came out, was when are you going to open up parks? And we know that people want to get out there, but we're really trying to make sure we have all the safety protocols in place that we can beforehand. So rest assured that is coming. And then one last item was that, at our last meeting, I'm not sure that I should have announced it and it slipped my mind, but Bailey Minnick, she has moved on. She's been a fantastic planner for us here at the City of Whitefish and was a great team member. We really do wish her well at her next job down in Missoula, so she's not far away. Once we're back to the kind of more normal operations, we'll celebrate with her more fully. So. And that is all I have this evening.
Thanks very much, Dana. We'll move on. And I reached out to Bailey today on behalf of the council and just thanked her for her service and wished her well. She was a great addition to the team. I was a bit surprised that she moved on, but it seems like a great opportunity for her personally and professionally. So while she'll certainly be missed here, we certainly do wish her the very best. We had a great run here at the city with Bailey. She always did a fantastic job. With that said, we'll move on to item 10, communications from myself and the city council. And I'm going to go ahead this evening and start with Melissa.
So it is with great regret that I announced to the public I am resigning from City Council. It was a difficult decision, but as probably most of you know, it is a role that demands a tremendous amount of time and investment, and personal circumstances prohibit me from, at this time, making that level of time, commitment, and investment. And that the position certainly deserves. So I certainly am so thankful to have had the opportunity to serve with such a distinguished and wonderful group of people. The people present here tonight, as well as former councilors Katie Williams and Richard Hildner. And I want to thank the city staff who've been amazing, the mayor, the council, citizens of Whitefish, everybody who's worked to make Whitefish the wonderful place that it is. Special thanks, Dana. Thank you so much for stepping up this past year. And I realize it was, that there probably were a lot of personal sacrifices on your end to take care of our town in the way that you did. So I'm so thankful for that. Ben, sorry I won't have the opportunity to get to know you better and work with you, but thank you for coming on board. Yeah, just super thankful. I certainly plan on being involved with the city in the future and in other ways. And so I look forward to engaging with you all in a different capacity and as a citizen, and bringing what I've learned through serving on council into new and different roles. So yeah, and again, thank you to the community. It's been a tremendous honor, and yeah, and hopefully also thank you to everybody for this incredible community response to COVID-19, and just great to know that we've kept our cases here at a minimum, and hopefully we can have a safe summer. So I wish that to everyone. And thanks again.
Thanks very much, Melissa. You'll certainly be missed, but if there's a silver lining in this, it's the fact that we have a very robust public process and volunteer base with 20 plus boards, and I know we're going to see you on several of those over the coming years. So please stay involved, because you've been a wonderful asset to this council, and you should leave City Hall tonight, although you're not physically here, with your head held high, and very proud of the work that you did for this community. Heartfelt thanks from myself. With that said, I will
Thanks,
bring up
Chappy.
you bet. With that said, I will bring up a discussion item, and this will be my only comment this evening. And again, this will be a discussion item for us right now. Under our current city charter, we do need to make this appointment. It's an appointment that's made by the majority of the seated city councilors. We have to make that appointment within 30 days, which means we either have to make it at the May 18th meeting or by June 1st at the latest. There's no process that's been defined within city code, with the exception of any candidate has to be eligible and meet our residency requirements. I'm going to make a pitch here. I've been thinking about this since Melissa first brought this to my attention, and I'll throw it out there for consideration, but we're a mere 5 months post our November election, and the next highest vote getter was Ben Davis, who garnered over 800 plus votes and only lost by a handful of votes, which tells me that our public, our voters, our residents certainly entrust Ben with the responsibilities of being a seated councilor, and I can't overlook the overwhelming support that he received within the election. Ben has served as the chairman and did an exemplary job as the Strategic Housing Steering Committee chairman. He's on the board of the Whitefish Housing Authority, and as we face our affordable housing problems into the future, I think Ben would be very instrumental up here with us as we navigate the program and refresh the program for that matter. He's very familiar with staff. He works very well with staff and commands the respect of staff while also respecting staff and showing that respect at each and every meeting. And he also knows the process, and given the complexity of subject matter we're dealing with and what's coming down the pipeline, I'm certainly looking to an individual that can hit the ground running, and I think Ben is qualified to do that. In the past, I know when I was appointed by former Mayor Andy Fury and his council back in 2006 or so, I did respond to a letter of interest or a call for letters of interest because there was a vacancy, a position that was vacated by Tom Newby. And at the same time, I know when Frank was appointed to fill a vacancy, the city also did advertise for letters of interest, and he was selected to backfill behind Shirley Jacobson, who stepped out before she completed her 4-year term. So there has been some precedent set, even though the city charter does not outline a clear process for us to follow. I see us taking two directions. One would be my goal here to have the position filled by May 18th and not wait until June 1st, because we are going into a budget cycle. And I think we need full hands on deck right now at the council. So we can either, with certainly a showing of hands and a majority of the council, have Ben's nomination added to the May 18th agenda at the beginning of the meeting so he can be sworn in, assuming he gains the majority of the vote of seated councilors, or we could submit or issue a letter of interest request and ask that letters of interest be submitted by May 13th for inclusion in the packet. And the council could review those letters and then deliberate who would be the best candidate at the May 18th meeting. Again, I'd like to see that agenda item at the front of the agenda, whichever direction you guys would like to take here this evening. With that said, I'll certainly open up to comments, and I'm going to go ahead and stick with the same order. And I'd like, Andy, your input moving forward with this.
There is not a process set out in the city charter as to how we go about doing it, other than it's a majority of the council and it has to happen within 30 days. I too first started out filling a vacated seat. And I don't recall whether or not there were letters of interest submitted at that time. I want to say that there weren't. I had also just narrowly lost in an election, which is why I think the council had reached out to me. So I lost to Edwin Fields, actually, who just recently passed away by fewer than 30 votes, as I recall. So, I mean, I'm kind of comfortable either way. What I would like to see us do, though, is whoever we would choose, if we decide to go with a letter or not, to stick with the mayor's plan, and that we have that at the front of the meeting on the 18th, and that person be voted on and sworn in at that meeting. I don't want to wait past that. I think he's very correct in that. I would be very comfortable with having Ben do it, and particularly given the circumstances right now, I will say that I think Ben has paid his dues. He's obviously shown a great dedication to the city. He would certainly be, without knowing what other interests would be out there, my top choice, I'm thinking. Circumstances are difficult right now, and I think we do need to have someone that can come in and get up to speed fairly quickly. Historically, that is what we have tried to do with filling a position, knowing well that it's a year and a half or a year, typically before the next election. Sometimes it's a person who's not even considering running in the upcoming election. It's simply just to get somebody in. So, I mean, I guess I'd be open to hear what other councilors have to say. So,
Thanks, Andy. Frank.
Mr. Mayor, I would concur with what Andy had to say on virtually every level. I think when I was appointed to fill Shirley's seat, there was an opportunity, or the council did solicit invitations or letters, but there had not been a recent election, as I recall, at that time, and I think that's why they went through the process for whatever purposes, soliciting letters of interest, and there were only 3 that showed up when I made my first application to join this august body. I tend to agree with you and with Andy that from what I've seen of Ben's commitment to this community, the hard work that he's put in, the knowledge that he has gained of staff and how this city operates, he would be an immediate asset. And he did have a huge support from the electorate when he ran. So I would be very comfortable simply placing his name on for a nomination and for approval on our next agenda. So I would be happy to go that direction.
Thank you, Frank. Rebecca, comments?
Well, I actually did respond to a letter at some point. I think it was Tom Murray that was stepping down, and Jan Metzmaker filled his role when he had to step down early. So I think we do have a precedent where we actually send out a letter of interest, an opportunity for people in the community to step up and see if they want to serve. So I would like to go forward with that. And I'm happy to hear that Ben is interested in doing it, but there might be other people that we could identify as leaders also. It might be a moot point, but I think it's better to stick to protocol because it's just a polite way of inviting everybody. So that would be my preference.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. Steve, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn. I don't see the harm in opening it up to the public, and at the same time, personally, somebody would have to really impress me for me to not be in favor of Ben, especially since we're only 5 months past an election where people were invited in to run for city council, and he came, 10 votes shy of being on council anyway. So, I mean, I'm equally happy going either way tonight with this, because I do support Ben and somebody, it would have to be somebody really special to make me change my mind at this point. But I also would like to see who else is interested in serving the city, because there are some openings on boards right now as well. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Steve. Melissa. You're on mute, Melissa. Melissa, you're muted.
Oh.
There we go.
I would be very supportive of Ben taking over, having worked with him on the Strategic Housing Committee. I think he would do an outstanding job, incredibly knowledgeable about one of the critical issues that our community is facing. So I would certainly be in support of that.
Thanks, Melissa. Finally, Ryan.
I think the move is to go with Ben. Given that we're so close to an election, he only lost by 4 votes. And having been through the entire inclusionary zoning process and hearing Ben speak numerous times, I mean, the guy's sharp. I think he'd be a great asset for the city. I would be in favor of putting that on the May 18th agenda.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, I've given you each an opportunity to comment on your preference. You've heard your fellow councilors' opinions, and I just need a motion so that we can move this forward one way or another, please.
That we open up the public process for letters of inquiry to fill our open city council seat, and also to allow time for interviews with the city council at the next city council meeting.
Is there a second to that motion? And that motion does fail for lack of a second.
Mr. Mayor, I would move, trying to word this properly, I would move to place the appointment of Ben Davis to the Whitefish City Council, to put that on the agenda for the May 18th meeting of the Whitefish City Council.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Sweeney. Ryan, would you like to speak to your motion?
I'll just reiterate what I said before. I think Ben would be great. I think he's the logical selection, given that he only lost by 4 votes about 5 months ago. So I would be happy to serve alongside Ben.
Thank you, Ryan. Further comments from the council?
Yes, this is Rebecca. I don't think it's a proper protocol considering how we've done this in the past, but I do think Ben will be wonderful.
Thanks, Rebecca. Michelle, roll call, please.
Councillor Cornell?
For the motion.
Sorry. Councillor Cornell?
For.
Councillor Sweeney?
For.
Councillor Hartman?
For.
Councillor Hennon?
Aye.
Councillor Fury?
In favor.
Councillor Norton?
Dane?
I'm sorry, what was that, Councillor Norton?
I'm abstaining.
Just curious, Rebecca, on what basis are you abstaining? You have a conflict of interest?
No, I don't want to support something when I don't think it's the correct way of doing things in process. I think in the past, when we've had sudden openings on our city council, we've always opened it to the whole public, and it hasn't been an appointment without the public knowing ahead of time and actually showing up to see if we had other candidates. And so I think it's just courtesy to open it to the whole public. So I don't think it's what we've done in the past. And so I'm not going to support doing it without opening it to the public. So that's why.
As a matter of course, Rebecca, I believe then that your motion would need to be against the motion, not abstaining.
Well, why can't I abstain?
It
Why?
probably should. Angela?
Rebecca, usually you can only abstain if you actually have a conflict of interest. So you're required to actually vote on the motion. If you want to vote against it, that's fine. But unless you have an actual conflict of interest you can articulate, you can't actually abstain.
Well, I might have a conflict of interest, because I did speak about this position to someone else that was interested. And I spoke to a few people about the position being open and asked them if they would be interested in applying for the position. So I'll still abstain.
So be it. The motion does carry on a 5-1 vote with Councillor Norton abstaining this evening. Thanks very much, everyone. And we'll start with Councillor Comments, and we'll start with Andy.
I guess a number of things. First of all, I'm sad that Bailey's leaving us because I've always appreciated working with her and she's done a great job. But I do wish her well, and Missoula will, I think, be a very good opportunity for her. So I applaud her in that. That's great. Melissa, I'm going to miss you a great deal. I thought you brought a lot to this council, and I'm very sad that you are leaving us, but I do understand sometimes that's a decision that needs to be made, having resigned once myself at one point, and it's not one that's easily made. And I know it's always fraught with a lot of hand-wringing, but typically it's always done for the right reasons, and I know that you have done that. So, but again, thank you for your service, and it's been great to have you here, and we look forward to being able to work with you in the future, obviously. I'm a little, and maybe it's just because everything was so quiet for so many weeks there. The sudden busyness around town was a little frightening to me in the last couple of days, I have to admit. I think we've done a great job in our state, but I'm hoping that people do remain vigilant and understand that as we start to see visitors come to our community, and that's going to happen, and we know they're not all going to self-quarantine like they're supposed to. I do fear that we're going to see another rise in cases in the state. And so I think if people really want to get back to work and get businesses open, they need to be conscious of what they're doing and understand this is very, very serious. And we've been very lucky here because we've done a good job. Just a thought to throw out there as a discussion topic. Obviously, I live in a family that has a food and beverage business, and I can pretty much guarantee you there isn't a single food and beverage establishment on Central Avenue or anywhere in this community that can survive at 50% occupancy and with social distancing at the same time. Food and beverage is a very marginal business, extremely marginal business, and if you don't turn tables, you don't survive. There are a number of communities throughout the country, typical or similar to ours, that are considering opening sidewalk and street dining for a period during the summer. Should be obviously for us, for downtown only, would be probably the place we could do it, would be to close off a couple of blocks of Central Avenue and allow additional seating possibly for restaurants on the sidewalk and out in the street. Just something for councilors to mull around a little bit and think about possibly, because it's going to be very tough for people. And I think our life's blood here is serving tourists and collecting resort tax revenues, and both of which are going to be few and far between, I'm afraid. So that's it. One last final thing. I do want to mention the passing of a good friend and a fixture in this community for many, many years, and that's Chappy Chapman. He will be greatly missed. He was a great ambassador for our community on many levels, standing behind the bar. And if anyone had the opportunity to read his obituary in the paper on Sunday, they would understand where he worked and how he did it and what a great human being he was. He was one of my wife's early roommates here at the Big Mountain High class of 1984, working at the Alpenglow. And he will be greatly missed by many, many people, both locals and visitors alike. So, and that's all I have.
Thanks very much, Andy. Frank.
I don't have much this evening. I'm Melissa. I'm going to miss you. I'm disappointed that this has had to take this turn. I understand it completely. You've done a great service for this community, and I know you'll still be around for us. So thanks so much. Andy, I think that your idea of potentially closing some of the downtown streets to allow for outdoor seating has some resonance with me. I'm thinking that, I know we had this argument many times before when we were just expanding the sidewalks and whether or not we wanted to create walking corridors instead of maintaining the parking downtown. I'm thinking that something that would work pretty well would be something like maybe we have evening closures for parking downtown. which would allow for the parking garage to be continue to be fully utilized, and would allow for that outdoor seating. And that might be helpful to a lot of the restaurants that are downtown that make most of their business in the evening meal anyway. So I think that would still leave it open during the day for normal retail, but maybe some evening closure would be a good thing.
Yeah, just a comment really quickly. I mean, I think logistically there's a lot of hurdles and challenges there. I do know Burlington, Vermont, I think, which is a fairly good sized community, much larger than us. They are considering it, if not having actually already implemented it. And I'll try and see if I can find some information on how they're doing it and what they see as challenges and what they see as potential benefits. But I think that anything we can do to help our downtown people is going to be extremely important this year.
Andy, your suggestion or your idea, I think you brought it to my attention. And then I read about it online regarding Burlington. I went ahead and I should have looped you in on this. I think I mentioned it to you, but I reached out to Dana, Kevin Gartland, Rhonda, and Dylan Boyle at the CVB and just planted that seed, and it seemed as though the wheels were already turning, trying to put something together like this. And Rhonda had some great input, as did Dylan. So I'm not sure really where we are with that, but the next string I get, or maybe Dana has something to add, I'll loop you in on that.
Yeah, John, I would love to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about this. I think myself and Chief Dial might still be on the line, but I have some serious concerns actually with it, honestly. Central Avenue has always been our main route that we like to keep open. And as you can imagine, in the times of high political stress, when you have certain people that want to be out and certain people that think we should be staying at home, one of my concerns is vehicles and their approach to potential tables within our Central Avenue or in the parking spaces. Liquor licenses, the state will not allow alcohol outside of the facility. So I think we would have potential issues with open containers. I also, when parking is being pushed to the parking structure, it might be okay when we're in our slow season, but it's going to be very, I think, hazardous come our busier season. And I understand the need. We'll get our picnic tables out at Depot Park, but to encourage people to go get takeout, go sit, out in a park space might be better. I know that, if we're allowing them to be out, tables that will be set up by each business. Again, I think from my standpoint, I'm not super comfortable with it. We're trying to discourage special events right now. Up till phase 2, you still only allow 50 people gathering. I think what could happen is all of a sudden it's going to be a large gathering space on Central Avenue, and you're going to see a lot more people downtown. So I understand the issues of bars and restaurants and not being able to financially make it, but I also have large concerns from a liability standpoint for the city and how we would be covered if we allow them to be out on our streets and parking spaces. So Angie might be able to chime in on that one.
Yeah, I absolutely can, Dana. I have the same concerns. We've typically not closed down Central. There's some serious safety concerns from a standpoint of police and not being able to barricade those ideas.
Mr. Mayor, could I just raise a point of order? I'm sorry. It's been a long meeting already, and this sounds like a really deep topic that goes beyond the Councillor Comments section of our meeting. I wonder if there's a way we could continue this conversation at another time other than now. I get it. I get the importance of it. I totally do. And I think it's a really important topic for us to discuss. I'm just not sure this is the time to do it.
Angie, can you wrap up in just about 30 seconds or so? And
yeah,
we can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have huge liability concerns for it. I think you're inviting people to gather in direct contravention of the governor's orders. I don't think it's possible to social distance down there.
Okay. Steve, I do think, just from my perspective as chairman, I think this is a perfectly legitimate topic to discuss under councillor comments. And I would allow it normally if it wasn't pushing 9:30, and I know you've had a long week with planning board, et cetera. So I'm going to let it go for now, but in the future, I think it's a perfectly allowable discussion topic to have under this agenda item. With all due respect. With that said, Frank, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Rebecca.
Yep, I really adored working with Bailey as a planner. I thought she was always crystal clear and excellent, and really a joy to work with for years. So we'll miss her. And Melissa, I really wish you well, and thank you very much for serving in so many capacities over the last few years. We know we'll see you again though. And nobody mentioned, but on Wednesday, which is 2 days from now at 11:40, we're going to have a Montana Air National Guard flyover of Whitefish. I think we're going through with that. We were notified of it. We didn't really discuss it as council, but that's being planned. I did have a conversation with Chris Schustrom from the Heart of Whitefish about seating outside, and they were discussing not closing down the street, but trying to do some outdoor seating. So that might be something that Dana and Angie might want to talk over with Rhonda and Kevin soon, because they were trying to come up with ideas. And the last thing, second to last thing, I am still working on trying to obtain masks, a bulk rate for numerous masks, because I think if the local people were to start using them regularly and set an example for the visitors, we might have better compliance with visitors using them. And there's some models out there where they're sold very inexpensively in the stores. And for people that are low income, they're handed out by free by the city, actually. So John and Dana and I are in conversations about that. And the last thing is I just wanted to reassure the public that even though sometimes we have contentious public hearings, which was 2 weeks ago, it was a difficult one, it doesn't mean we're not all on the same page. We've grown a really beautiful city where people care greatly about how it grows. And so sometimes the decisions are made for legal reasons, sometimes they're part of our planning, but we move forward together into the future. And so we have a lot of things that have been done wonderfully in the past to get us to this point, and we'll be going forward as well. I also wanted to thank Dana in particular, and John and Joe for leading us through the COVID pandemic. It seems like we're doing very well, but people still need to stay vigilant because it is a deadly disease. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate the comments. Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to reiterate that I think that the idea of finding ways to support our businesses, especially our bars and restaurants, is a good idea. And I would hope that maybe Angie and Dana could look into possibly finding a way to do that, to have some modified version of that, of what Andy brought up. And I would hope that maybe you could look into that in the coming week, 2 weeks, and have something for us in the next report. And Melissa, I didn't get to serve with you long, but thank you for your service. Definitely appreciate all the hard work you've done, not just since November, but for all the years before that as well. And we'll be looking for you on certain volunteer boards here and there. So appreciate your service. And I know Bailey's not here, and I never really got a chance to say goodbye to her, but I've worked with her, I think, from the whole time, pretty much the whole time she was here. And really, really appreciated the way that she approached things and what she was able to do. And I watched her take a lot of slings and arrows, especially on the Lakeshore Planning Committee. So I hope that she does well in her new job. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Ryan? Anything this evening?
Yeah, it's going to be sad to see you go, Melissa. But I have a feeling since you live about 50 yards from me, I'll be seeing you around. That's all I have for this evening.
Thanks, Ryan. Melissa, you can't get off that easy, and I'm going to pull you right back in because I pulled out the information that you submitted to the council on the proposed Whitefish resolution to support the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. And so I'm going to be circling back with you as I promised. We'll try to get this shepherd through the system here with your help, of course.
Thank you. I truly appreciate that. Would be a wonderful parting gift.
Got it. Promise. We'll make it happen. So, thanks again, Melissa. And on that note, we are adjourned.